Obviously, if you could have a state of affairs in which no country bribed, that would be far preferable to what has been going on in the past. But as long as you don't have such a state of affairs, I'm rather in favour of getting the business.
The reason Saudi Arabia buys arms from states like Britain, France and the United States is because really it's unlikely that the arms it buys from them are on their own going to be enough in some circumstances to guarantee the security of the state and the continuing rule of the government of Saudi Arabia. What they also buy is a political commitment from states who have the ability to intervene militarily out of area to prop up that government if the need arises.
Well, I'm not aware that there's anything Britain can do to keep the Saudi regime in power should either the left or the right, the Conservatives or the Liberals, stage a coup in Riyadh. I don't think we can be of any help to the Saudi government. I don't think the Saudi government's any real help to us. This was always about money. It was about whose money, which money goes where. The contract itself was a creaming, really, of oil revenue from the Saudi people into the pockets of the princes and into the pockets, for that matter, of the British Aerospace company. Everything about it, to my mind, was unreal. It doesn't make political sense, it doesn't make commercial sense, it doesn't make defence sense.
On the basic sale of the planes themselves, we calculate that the extra payments were in the region of £600 million. But that's only part of the story. We believe that the overall commissions on the Al-Yamamah deal have been at least 15% and rising up to 30% on all aspects of the deal. What this means is that the total in commission payments over the years may have been as much as £6 billion.
One of the documents is a telegram about the negotiations in Al-Yamamah, which shows that in 1 year the price of the Tornadoes went from about £16 million to about £21 million, with no explanation given as to why there was such a big price rise, despite the fact they're offering the same equipment.
We'd signed the OECD Convention opposing corruption. We lecture the world on corruption. We tell African governments we won't give them aid if they employ corruption. The Serious Fraud Office is allowed to begin an investigation into these payments, and suddenly, just when it's getting near the famous Swiss bank accounts, the government tells it to stop. This is a totally unacceptable situation.
Our relationship with Saudi Arabia is vitally important for our country in terms of counter-terrorism, in terms of the broader Middle East, and that strategic interest comes first, particularly in circumstances where if this prosecution had gone forward, all that would have happened is that we would have had months, potentially years of ill feeling between us and a key partner and ally, and probably to no purpose. That had we allowed this to go forward, we'd have done immense damage to the true interests of this country, and as I say, leaving aside the fact that we'd have lost thousands of highly skilled British jobs and a very, very important business for British industry.
Ever since the Serious Fraud Office began this investigation, BAE, the arms company, has been trying to get it shut down. More than a year ago, they went to the Attorney General and said, we're going to lose this contract, will you stop the investigation? At that time, the Attorney General didn't intervene, the SFO was allowed to carry on. A year later, something happened. What happened was that the Swiss banks notified Wafik Said, one of the middlemen, that they were going to inspect his accounts as part of this investigation. Within days, the sky fell in. Within days, the Saudis were in contact with the British Prime Minister's office. Within days, the British Prime Minister was in contact with the Attorney General. What's going on? This has got to be stopped. The Ministry of Defence were in contact with the SFO saying, what's going on? This has got to be stopped. The British ambassador in Riyadh, Sherard Cooper-Cowles, was called in and he lectured the Serious Fraud Office about how the Saudis were furious and this investigation had to be stopped. From every direction, pressure was put on the director of the SFO to halt his investigation.
Clearly there was a massive operation underway from BAE Systems to persuade the government to drop the inquiry. And the argument from them was that tens of thousands of jobs were at stake. I suspect that the claims were massively exaggerated. The going was getting quite difficult for the leadership in Saudi Arabia. The Serious Fraud Office had got an order for access to Swiss bank accounts. So far from any suggestion that this inquiry was going nowhere and was likely to result in failure, every indication I had was that it was because the inquiry was making significant progress that it was actually brought to an end.
The Saudi ambassador now says that everything has changed in Saudi Arabia and that if there was corruption it was in the past and we're all going to behave differently in the future. This is very hard to credit because the same people are in power now in Saudi Arabia as were 20, 30 years ago and have been throughout all these allegedly corrupt deals. It's the Sultan family who are key to this. Prince Sultan was defense minister 40 years ago and has controlled all armed contract ever since and has now risen to become crown prince. His son, Prince Bandar, who set up the Al-Yamamah deal, is still national security advisor. He's in a key position. Sultan's other son, Khalid, has played an important part in the military. It's Sultan's son-in-law, Prince Turki, who ran the Air Force for many, many years. This is the branch of the family that's still absolutely in power.
I think it's a moral issue, a political issue and an economic issue. Morally, I think it is wrong to be paying bribes to foreign officials. It means that equipment is bought for the wrong reasons. But it's also an economic judgment because at the end of the day, if this country loses its reputation as a good place to do business, then economically we will suffer damage.
It's quite strange that this contract is called Al-Yamamah, which means the dove, because the dove is a bird of peace, and of course this is an arms contract. However, it's certainly been very peaceful because the Al-Yamamah planes have never been flown in any war that I know about to any successful extent, so maybe it is peace that they're brought.